When I look back over the years, some of the Pokemon card purchases I've made have been unbelievable. Like genuinely, it's actually hard to wrap my head around how much they've grown. And the craziest part about all of this is that I've been in this world of Pokemon collecting and Pokemon investing every single day, making content about it for like 2 years. So technically, I really shouldn't be surprised at all because I'm seeing it all day by day. But you know, when I zoom out and I see the growth of my products, it's actually insane. In fact, some purchases that I never thought would be impressive turned out to be really great decisions. But obviously I've been involved in collecting Pokemon and investing in Pokemon cards much before this whole new recent boom cycle that's happened. So a lot of the products and singles that I owned just naturally went up with the market swings. So I suppose there's an aspect that it's not even that impressive of how much some of my cards have grown because I just had very good circumstances. Though I thought if I were to start to build a Pokemon collection today and I wanted to invest as a total newcomer, what path would I take? Where would I begin? Well, that's why in this video, I'll actually be going over how I'd personally start investing in Pokemon if I started from scratch today, and I'll explain my rationale behind it. Now, I know it should go without saying, but please don't take this video as some magical guide. This is just the way I'd do it. It is very likely it could fail, so please don't take this video as some golden fail-proof advice. I'm just sharing my own experience on how I'd do it myself for a fun video. But the first area, if I started investing in Pokemon cards today, I would 100% focus heavily on owning at least one vintage graded card from the Wizard of the Coast era. The Wizard of the Coast era was from 1999 until 2003, and these are the Pokemon cards that everyone grew up to love. Now, in terms of the type of card, I'd personally go for PSA 8 or above. PSA 10 is obviously the best choice, though I have to think about it and be realistic, because obviously a first edition base set Charizard is not something I would bother with or anyone would bother with unless they were millionaires, but there would be actually a lot of good cards in the market that are good purchases. Now, in terms of this, I'd personally go with a card that is important to me. I actually don't believe in buying cards purely for financial gain. To me, it's always a good idea if I'm gonna buy a card or a PSA 10 graded copy, I have to make sure that I have some sort of connection to the card, whether it's a memory for me as a kid or whether or not it has some sort of connection to me. If I'm just buying cards because I'm like, oh, this is gonna grow in price in 10 years from today, that is the worst way to be buying any Pokemon cards. Yeah, everyone says, oh, but aren't you investing? There's no emotional decision. Man, this is trading cards and collectibles. There is so much emotion already attached to it. This is very different to anything other that you would invest in. This is a very emotionally driven hobby. So your own emotions have to come into it because you have to have that collector side as well when doing this, and that makes it far more enjoyable. But if I started buying today, these are some of the cards I would be considering. So in terms of my vintage grail here, I have the Heracross first edition from Neo Genesis. Really cool card here, but I'm on the collector app here and you can see that I've just got right here on the graph, you can see right there, the PSA 9 is currently selling for $412, okay? And the PSA 8 is currently selling for $176. Now I'm just gonna open it up so you can see how much the PSA 10 costs. Now I've just added the PSA 10 in terms of this and you can see how it bumped up. Now if we go, the current price of the PSA 10 sold for around $15,000, okay? So you can see that massive price difference right there for the PSA 9 versus the PSA 10. The PSA 9 is currently selling for $412 and the PSA 10 is 15 grand. Obviously the PSA 10 is completely not anything I'd bother with, but the PSA 9 right there for $412, that is something I would love to buy because to me, $412 is definitely a big purchase, but I'm owning a very, very old card that will never ever be recreated in terms of the only thing is we can get reprints of those cards in some sort of classic set. But in terms of Neo Genesis, that's done. And the fact that it's right there, you can see modern grails for PSA 10 cards sell for that price point. So owning these vintage grails, you really do future-proof yourself for a long time. That PSA 9's probably never gonna get to $15,000. It's probably out of the question. But what definitely can happen is these old school, PSA 9s, they definitely can start rising with the market because right there, you can see the PSA 10 is out of reach. Now also guys, if you have been enjoying the video, I just want to say hi. If you're a first timer here, my name's Phil and I've been making content here for a while now. If you like Pokemon cards and you like keeping up to date with the market, definitely feel free to subscribe. It's always always great seeing new people on board. And now the next one that I've been looking at, and one that I thought would be cool to own as well, is the Politoed from Neo Discovery. I was a big fan of Politoed, so this one does have personal connection to me. But here we go. We can see the PSA 10 for this card's currently selling for $1,425, and the PSA 9's for $335. Now again, the PSA 10 is definitely a big, like that's a big asking price. The thing with these vintage grails, it's only when they're on the market as well. Like if you're trying to find one of these, it's very hard. You have to wait for it. So they're not the easiest to get as well. But there you go, the PSA 9 selling for $335. Again, to me, that is a price that I would comfortably pay for that. It's a holo card. It's from Neo Discovery. Real classic Pokemon for me. So there you go. That is just the way I would personally be going about it. Like when I'll be making one of these decisions, I'd be like tossing up, do I want the Heracross? I love that card. Do I want this Politoed? That's the kind of decision I'd be making, especially if I started today. Now also, when you're buying or investing in Pokemon cards, it's very crucial that you're tracking them, and the best tool to do that is the Collector app, who are also the sponsors of today's video. Now, you've probably noticed in this video that I've been using Collector's graphs. Now, not only is Collector an amazing place to view pricing data, but its real capabilities are in how it tracks and manages your collectible portfolio. So you can actually place the card or the product that you paid for it at that time, and Collector will update the prices all in real time. Now, it also has some super handy features. One awesome is the trade analyzer tool. Here you can just place in what you'll be offering versus what you'll be receiving, and you can see how the trade stacks up based on the current market. Obviously, this is an amazing tool to have when you're at card shows. Now, if you do upgrade to Collector Pro, there's a bunch of features that are super useful. One of them is the ability to use your phone's camera to scan cards into the app. Now, another handy feature is the Max tab, which lets you extend pricing data past the standard 1-year view. You can find all the details about the Collector app in the video's description. A big thanks to Collector for always supporting the channel. Let's jump back into this video. Now, another one which is a bit out there, but this is the Stantler from Neo Genesis. This is not a holo, but this card is so nostalgic to me. I just remember this card so much as a kid. But I can see here, right there, the PSA 10. So the last sale for that was 95 US. So honestly, for a PSA 10 for such a vintage card, when I'm looking at that, the PSA 9's $28. In this circumstance, I'll definitely go for the PSA 10 if I were to buy this card, because it's like, wow, okay, I could own at least a very high graded card from a bygone era for Pokemon cards. And that to me is a good memory. But there you go. In terms of that, I would always try to at least buy one of these old school collectibles, because I know that they're definitely from a very bygone era from back in the day. So the strategy that is very important, especially if I started investing today, would be locking in booster box pre-orders for every new set when they release, and doing this at retail price. Honestly, this is the best situation, because when you look at booster box prices, it's pretty obvious that buying them at retail price when they release at the pre-order window is always the best option. As it stands, while I'm making this video, you will very likely be able to get at least 1 to 2 booster boxes if you pre-order at major retailers when they get released. Soon as that pre-order window comes down, in my experience, you usually have around 1 to 4 days to be able to secure 1 to 2 booster boxes. That is the general kind of vibe with Pokemon cards right now. A lot of places have put in pre-order limits, which is really good because you can at least own 1 to 2 booster boxes. Back in the days when people bought cases, that's not a thing. Like, it is so, unless you have some sort of special access, you are very unlikely going to be able to buy a case of Pokemon cards at the moment. But in terms of buying a 1 or 2 booster boxes, that is very, very likely, as long as you are on the ball with it, right? Have your finger on the pulse, as we like to say. That's how you want to be when it comes to this. Now, I thought it'd be good to look at some of the booster boxes so you can see even modern booster boxes when you get them for that retail price. So here I'm on Destined Rivals, and I'm not really, retail prices changed so much. I'm just going to use a benchmark figure for 220 US as retail price for modern booster boxes. That is if you pre-order it from a major retailer. I know in Australia, they're around 329 Australian dollars. If you can get it for pre-order, sometimes 299 AUD. So for this video, I'm saying that the retail price is 220. It's probably even a little bit lower than that, but just for this examples of this video. So we can see Destined Rivals, if you did get it for that 220 price point, whatever, we're saying if you did pre-order it for that price, pretty much as soon as the secondary market was already asking for 276. If we go up to here, Destined Rivals went up to 442. And right now, as I'm making this video, Destined Rivals is selling for 523 USD for a booster box. So definitely the best kind of decision you can make is trying to get it at that pre-order window when you will be able to pay retail price at those major retailers. You can always buy it like on eBay or the secondary market afterwards, but the thing is you will be paying these prices, like as you can see here when it released. Around here, I was selling for around $261, $260. Again, I bought, like in Australia, we have EB Games. I usually get, that's the best price I can always get it if I pre-order it from EB Games, which is actually the reverse, because that used to be the expensive way to do it. Funny how life goes full circle, because that's now the cheap way to do it. Same thing with Mega Evolution. We can see August 16, around that time when it was releasing, around 233 US. Right now, Mega Evolution is selling for around $273. So you're not getting it, it's not some massive growth, but you would have got it at the cheapest time if you pre-ordered the set and purchased it then. Same thing here with Phantasmal Flames. We can see that Phantasmal Flames did have that. In December, it was selling for around $216, which like I said, if we're using that $220 retail price benchmark, if you did buy it from a retailer, and they weren't doing scalper pricing, you would have probably paid that. And then right now we can see Phantasmal Flames selling for $342. So definitely big growth. And that is the key here. You do want to try get in early. Like as 1 or 2 booster boxes. You don't want to get greedy. You don't want to buy cases. I mean, like I said, those days are gone, man. Like buying cases, it's so rare to see people do that anymore. I don't even know how like people would get them. I have no way for me to even buy a case unless I'm going to pay some exorbitant amount of money for that, which I'm not comfortable doing. And there's a big lesson with collectibles as well. If you are buying it, think of the long game, man. Think of the long game, which is buy it with what you can. I always explain this to everyone. I've had in situations in my life, I actually only bought 1 Destined Rivals booster box. And I mentioned on this channel before, but because I was moving homes at that time, I had so many things going on in my life. I had my wedding coming up. All that took precedence over whether or not I was going to invest heavy in Destined Rivals. That wasn't even a thing that I was thinking of at that time. So I have no regrets then because I was very aware of my life situation at the time. So another thing, if you are buying or trying to invest in some of these collectibles, never buy, if you're trying to buy any sealed product, only buy what you can at that time. It's a very important thing that you need to be aware of. Now also, I'd personally, especially in 2026, I'd buy at least 1 ETB of each set. Again, doing that same thing, pre-ordering it when it releases at major retailers. The key to investing in collectibles today is to not play catch up. So my strategy has completely changed. Like in the Sword and Shield era, I was just buying Chill and Reign, Lost Origin, Fusion Strike, like whatever. I just bought whatever I felt at the time. Though none of us really have that luxury at the moment. I never really go back too much to play catch up. It's just not a good thing. You will always pay so much money, and that's why I think the best way is, like I said, that retail price. Right now, that is the best way you can do it, and just have that very long kind of vision for it. Now, another thing, I personally don't think you can really make a collection without owning at least 1 high-graded chase card. Now, I wouldn't be buying a Poncho or Moonbryon, as I really think the boat for those kind of collectibles has gone, but it's about finding which boat hasn't really left yet, because there's a lot of PSA 10 cards you can buy right now in the market. Sure, they're not gonna maybe have like a Moonbryon spike, but it doesn't have to have a Moonbryon spike or a Poncho spike. There's still some in the market right now that are interesting. So right here, again, I'm looking at the PSA 10 prices. This is Ethan's Ho-Oh, and we can see it was actually selling here, the PSA 10 $739 and the PSA 9 $236. But if we look here, we can see that the PSA 10 currently is selling for $400 US and the PSA 9 $171. Now, for me personally, I would always go for modern collectibles PSA 10, and I will show you in just a second why I will do that, because I've explained, especially if you watch my content, I do have a video, I'll link it for you here, about the compounding effect of PSA 10s with grading. I do have that video there if you're interested in that. This is really, it's very different. Vintage is a different game because the price discrepancy, like I showed you with that Heracross, 400 and whatever it was, 30 US for a PSA 9, 15,000 for a PSA 10. Modern, unless there's some real printing issues like with the Magic Carp, which has like a 16% chance to get a PSA 10. Most modern, the price will be probably double or a little bit more than double for the PSA 10. But I personally, because of that compounding effect, which I'll show you in a second why that works. But here, the Ethan's Ho-Oh, I think that's a really cool card. You know, it just has to be within, everything has to be within budget. But to me, I'm really liking that one at 400 US. But in terms of like, I'll show you what happens with PSA 10s if they do get caught in a hype wave, or if they do start rising in price. There is a multiplying effect that happens. And I'll just show you a quick example of this. So here's the Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike. Really awesome card. Now, currently in the market, we're just looking at that. The PSA 10 is currently selling for $1,914 and the PSA 9 selling for $766. So there you go. We can see big price differences there. Now, if I go back to here, we can see here that the PSA 10 was selling in April of 2025 for $1,193 and the PSA 9 for $583. So we can see in that same time, yes, you would have had to put more money down to buy the PSA 10, but the difference is pretty big. 1.1K for the PSA 10, 583 for the PSA 9 in April of last year. And right now we can see that the PSA 10 selling for $1,903 and the PSA 9 selling for $774. So the percentage difference in these is pretty significant. And you know what's crazy? As time goes on and as the years and years go on, what if we look at history with PSA 10s, because we can only look at the past, but usually that effect actually goes even bigger and bigger. It's extraordinary how it happens. So that is usually how it works. Now, not saying that the future, like I said, I cannot predict the future, but what I can do is look at what's happening today, look at the past, and then make that forecast. And that is why PSA 10s do have a big power in the market. That's why if I was to invest in today, I would look at getting one PSA 10 Grail from the Scarlet and Violet era or the Mega Evolution era and holding on to it. But you know, investing in collectibles is a super fun hobby, though there are a few mistakes that need to be avoided, and the exact mistakes to be avoided can be seen in this video on screen here. Within this video on screen, I go over the most common Pokemon investing mistakes to avoid. If you enjoyed this video, click the video that's appearing on screen. You can learn about it there. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video.